USA is sliding into dictatorship that can no longer be denied. See my Substack post comparing Hitler's turning Germany into a dictatorship with what Trump has done in the US since he took power this year. The link's in the description. Now, I'm assuming that my viewers don't want that to happen. And since what happens in the USA affects the whole world and elements in our own politics and societies are following Trump's lead, it's an issue for all of us. So the question is, what to do about it? Well, awareness is the first step. Obviously, we have to understand and accept what's happening right now. That's crucial. Dictatorships don't emerge overnight. They do take shape through deliberate actions, though. So staying informed is the foundation of resistance. If we are to stop the US falling further into dictatorship, we can't stay in our meditation rooms or not inform ourselves because it's all too upsetting. Remember the first noble truth? There is suffering to dissatisfaction. It's no good trying to run away from the truth because suffering and dissatisfaction are all around us. And we can't act to change anything until we've accepted that things are as they are. Now, most of us listening here have probably had a long history of meditation experience. So we should know when we need to take a break, to take a walk, allow our mind to calm so we don't become overcome by the sheer pace of the dismantling of the US democracy, so we don't become frozen. We need to be aware and be informed, but look after our mental and spiritual health. And we need to act based on wisdom and compassion. So this video is about looking at what's happening in the US now through a Buddhist framework and knowledge of cults, so that we're better able to deal with the situation. Trump's cult of personality took hold because he fed people's prejudice, greed, jealousy, close-mindedness, hatred, and anger. The destructive emotions that the Buddha taught lead to suffering. The causes of suffering, he said, are negative karma and ignorance. I'm putting karma aside for now and looking at ignorance. In the Buddhist sense, that's attachment, aversion, and ignorance in the sense of closed-mindedness, not a lack of education. Aversion includes hatred and prejudice. Attachment includes greed and jealousy. Hence, we get 5 destructive emotions: anger and hatred, prejudice, greed, grasping, jealousy, and closed-mindedness. We cause our own suffering by getting caught up in these emotions, and others cause suffering for us by becoming trapped in those emotions themselves. Now, it's really easy to be caught in negative emotions, and it's easy to fan and weaponize them. Advertising campaigns work by capturing people's emotions, and social media campaigns do it by particularly appealing to people's negative emotions. It causes people to react without thinking, to share, like, and comment on anything, regardless of the truth, so long as it reinforces their anger and hatred, their prejudice, their greed, their jealousy, and close-minded. Trump uses emotive language to appeal to people's hatred and fear of non-white, non-male, non-able, and diverse. He appeals to their anger at perceived injustices like blaming immigrants for crime and loss of jobs, blaming diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives for what they see as giving women and minority groups an unfair advantage over white males, rather than levelling the playing field, which is what they were designed to do. It feeds on their prejudice against these groups, especially non-whites and immigrants. He appeals to people's desire to get richer. Prices will go down, you get better jobs, business will boom, America will be great again. He fosters jealousy of the rich and famous. He makes them believe they could become like those they emulate. It's all lies, of course, but it captures their emotions, fires them up into a messianic fervour, and captured their vote. Trump fostered hatred and anger instead of love and compassion. He fostered ignorance instead of wisdom. He divided a country instead of unified it, and created a cult in which his followers look up to him as a savior sent by God. As people with an intimate knowledge of cult dynamics, we know how dangerous this is. Trump's narrative made immigrants the enemy. Fostering aversion, and it made people think that they could become rich, fostering greed. He also demonized those who disagreed with him, calling them woke and lefties and so on, thus fostering closed-mindedness and creating deep divisions in the community. Now, division is a tool for control. By turning Americans against one another, left versus right, urban versus rural, white versus non-white, Trump made it easier to consolidate power. The more divided we are, the harder it is to resist. The flurry of executive orders, many of which betray the US Constitution, is a classic authoritarian tactic. Flooding the country with policies at a rapid pace creates chaos and distraction, making it harder for people to focus on the most dangerous actions. the ones that go against the very foundation of American democracy. So, if we're to save the US from dictatorship, we need to be very clear on the main point here, and that's the betrayal of the US Constitution, the dismantling of democracy, and replacing it with a dictatorship run by oligarchs. So, what do we do? Well, I think we need to overcome the division and rebuild local communities. Resistance isn't just about opposing Trump. It's about bringing people together, because only when millions of people get out on the streets together asking for the administration to step down will there be enough resistance from the people to bring the country to a standstill and force capitulation from the government. This is how they removed dictator Marcos from the Philippines. It was a peaceful people power revolution. We need to find common ground in values beyond policies. Yeah, nice words, but how do we do it? Well, I think we need to talk to people in our community wherever we come across them. I don't think we should try to convince them of anything, rather, just ask questions to get them thinking and just listen to them. Don't talk about who you voted for. That's getting into trouble. Just if they go that way. So, who we voted for really doesn't matter. This goes way beyond. Ask questions, and if there's anything in their responses that you can use as a shared value, then you can affirm that. Yes, I think so too. You could ask things like, how do you feel about what's happening in the country at the moment? Is anything concerning you at all? Do you go to national parks? Do you think it's important to have them maintained? How do you feel about veterans? Should our government look after them after they've finished active duty? Are you concerned about disinformation, about potentially being lied to, about social media manipulating us? What values do you think America stands for? How important is the Constitution for you? How important is free speech in America to you? Should we be able to protest without fear of being imprisoned or deported? And what does it mean for us if we become too scared to speak our mind on what the government is doing? What do you think about USA siding with Russia against our traditional allies? Do you think we should invade Canada? What do you think core American values are? The ones we fought for in our wars. Now, obviously, you're not going to ask all these questions at once. It's not an interrogation. It's just ideas for the kinds of things you could ask to get them. If you find yourself talking to a person who's concerned about sliding into a dictatorship, then ask the what do you think we should do question. Then you could suggest that we all need to be prepared to stop work and get onto the streets to call for the removal of the regime. It's a matter of being ready for the call. Also ask things like, who do you think we could rally around in our community? If you find yourself talking to a MAGA cult person, remember that they are in a cult. So all you can do is be polite, listen, acknowledge their fears, and hope that your questions might start a cult recovery moment in their mind. Forget hardliners, you're never going to move them. Their identity is too closely aligned to their beliefs. And remember, particularly when talking to MAGAs, treat them with respect and kindness. They're not stupid, not necessarily. They just got caught in a cult. I got caught in a cult and I'm not stupid. Don't think you're better than them. We all have negative emotions and we can all get caught by them and the clickbait that preys on them. It's not their fault if they voted for Trump. Data suggests the elections were rigged anyway. They were lied to. We were all lied to. Avoid assigning blame. Really doesn't help. I would say try to use we and yous instead of you wherever you can. Ignore the cult speak. Irritating as it is, let it wash over you. I think as much as possible, don't talk policies, political parties, who you voted for. Keep it general. This conversation really has to be had outside of specific policies and general politics. I don't think we'll achieve anything inside that framework. I don't even think you should mention Trump if you can avoid it, because if they're in a cult, they'll see it as criticism and reject it, and you'll just get this division. The aim is to create a connection on what you do share, like love of where you live, your concern for your children, your fears for the future. I don't recommend doing this on social media. It really has to be face to face. You could just be wasting your time with a Russian bot, and all you'll do is get frustrated and draw more conflict to you there. Then I think we need to find leaders that we can unite behind and be ready to heed their calls to action. People will step forward. Bernie Sanders is on the ball. He's correctly identified the issue as the money behind the throne, the oligarchs, Musk, Zuckerberg, Bezos, and so forth. You could also seek out the veterans in your community, see what they're thinking and planning. Start with the people around you. Maybe you could become a leader yourself. And keep your spirits up. It'll be a long fight, so take breaks and look after yourself. Remember, we're in a bardo, place between how things were and how things will be. But this is an enormous opportunity. The USA could come out of this a lot better. I would say pray and do some spiritual practice directed to healing the causes of this slide into dictatorship. It's been really important for me. I have an unaligned Vajrayana practice that came to me out of my meditation practice. It works directly on turning destructive emotions into wisdom. Not only our own emotions, but those that are running rampant around us. It's a powerful unaligned practice, meaning it's not related to any group, and it really is perfect for this moment in time. I expect that's why it came to me now. You can download the really simple version by clicking the link in the description. And if you want the full meditation practice of Mahavajra, contact me through the Beyond the Temple website. These are just some ideas from me because I really feel I want to help. I hope it does help. Also, pop in the comments any suggestions you have for anything that people can do to help stop the USA from sliding into dictatorship. I could not have imagined such a thing, but here it is.